Gen 3 strikes the balance of like a good amount of centralization where there's 4 or 5 Pokemon you see a lot, but then those Pokemon have a lot of variety in how they can be used, and also the fact that they have exploitable weaknesses creates niche roles for like random Pokemon to exploit. I think a problem in many competitive Pokemon metagames is that if something is too powerful, it actually restricts variety. Random niche stuff doesn't have any breathing room. In Gen 3, I think it's kind of the opposite.
And it's a metagame that I find extremely interesting. It's been amazing to see the way that people have been engaging with it in the last year or so, even the last several months.
Yeah, a lot of people accuse me of being like rose-tinted goggles when it comes to my appreciation for Gen 3. It's not actually true. I have the more nostalgia for Gen 1 and like Gen 4 and 5.
We interrupt this podcast for an important announcement. The devious Iron Mugulis is still on the loose, threatening all those who oppose it with a destructive scald attack that's sure to leave a burn. I mean, look at that dastardly 180 special attack. What are we to do here, folks? Well, subscribe to Jim Cool and Skill Link, and maybe, just maybe, this beast will be kept at bay. Now, back to your regular programming. Hello, folks. Welcome to the Skill Link podcast, where we chat and get to know passionate content creators, competitive players, and all voices who continue to make the Pokemon community incredible. And let me just say, today is going to be insane. Our guest is an expert on all things competitive Pokemon, from the current meta all the way back to Gen 3 OU, which is a community favorite and staple. From team building to Pokemon set breakdowns or commentary on the current meta, he covers it all. But he does more than make competitive Pokemon videos. He's on a quest to stop the evil Iron Mugulis in its tracks before it takes over the world as we speak. If you know, you know. It's our friend, Jimothy Cool. How are you doing, my friend?
How's it going, fellas? I'm great. What a lovely introduction. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I had to put out a PSA for Iron Mugulis. I wanted to make sure that was in the first 30 seconds, so that way everyone was on...
It's a threat that's sweeping the entire globe. It's a big issue that we need to address as quickly as we can.
I mean, understandable. I knew it was a local thing, but in the last couple months, it's become an international phenom. So I want to make sure everyone out there is fully aware of that. But no, we appreciate you hopping on. We were super excited. I mean, when Logan and I started this up a few months ago, and we're looking for people that we wanted to invite on, just kind of people that we've watched for a while that we're subscribed to or follow, and I've been subscribed to you for a while. I got to say, I'm a massive fan. So we're super excited. Love what you do. Obviously, we'll talk about your content later on, but aside from being informative, it's just straight up entertaining. And I think that's the best thing you can ask for as a content creator is to have your viewers entertained. And I got to say, at least with me, you're hitting home with that. So I
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of getting into it, before we kind of get into the Pokemon side of things, we kind of wanted to get to know you just a little bit better. Sure. So, how's the start of the year been for you? Anything that you're looking forward to? And is there any New Year's resolutions that you're kind of excited to get going in your life?
I'm having a pretty good New Year, yeah. I don't know if you know the Sydney New Year Fireworks Festival. I went to that for the first time.
Okay.
You got to camp out and... wait till midnight. That was a whole experience.
Nice.
Never done that before.
Wow.
Nice way to start the new year.
That's awesome.
Usually the new year doesn't feel like a big event for me, but that made it feel like a bigger event. So
right. Just try and make it a little more special.
Is Absolutely. It like camp out, like you mean like in a tent, or is it like kind of save your spot kind of camp out? So you get
save
like
your
early
spot. We didn't stay overnight or anything crazy.
Oh, cool. That's still awesome. I love it. Fireworks are a lot of fun. I got 2 little girls, and so for the 4th of July and other events that here in the U.S. that we celebrate with fireworks and things like that, it's always a good time to just kind of watch the fire fly up and kind of experience the moment where it's like this is celebrating something important in our lives and starting over. So that's awesome. I love that. And it's always kind of fun to do a first time kind of event too, especially when it's like something you've heard about for a long time. You're like, let's go try it. Let's see how we like it.
I got a great shot of Iron Mugulis in front of the fireworks as they were happening as well.
I think I saw that actually. That's great. Oh, I don't want to know what his dastardly New Year's resolutions are, so he can probably keep those to himself if you ask me. That's awesome. Yeah, no. So
I know
ringing things
all
in.
of
Is
our
there
New Year's.
anything that? Oh yeah, sorry, Logan.
I
I
was gonna
think you
say.
kind of
I
bugged
was
out for
gonna
a second.
say. Oh, you're good. I was just saying, all our New Year's resolutions is make sure that Iron Mugulis doesn't get ahead, right? Like we just,
Uh-huh. That's correct.
I love it.
I was going to ask you, yeah, right now, is there anything that kind of particularly inspires you right now outside of Pokemon, and any other games, movies, shows, books, etc., that are kind of striking home for you at the moment, or
Tekken
just in
just
general?
came out. I think Tekken looks fun. I played the demo at a recent fighting game tournament I went to. Had a lot of fun with that. I might play that, but Pokemon consumes my life, so it's hard to make time for other games, to be honest.
See, that's the thing. Other people ask me that too, and they're like, anything that you're particularly into right now, and I'm like, if I'm being honest with you, I'm probably just on Showdown or watching streams of people on Showdown or something along those lines. So I'm like, I wish I could give you more than that, but I really don't think I can. So, but nothing wrong with that.
Ain't that the
Did you ever
truth?
get into Pokken? I'm just curious, or
It looks pretty fun. I've never played it personally.
When did that come out again? What was the release on that? I can't remember. It was a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it was like 2015 or something like that, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. I'm kind
It came
of
out
bummed
on the
that they got
Wii
rid
U,
of it.
didn't it? And then they remade it for the
Yeah.
Switch and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And
I wish they would make a
Switch had some-
Pokemon 2D fighter, like a Street Fighter
Like a
style
Street Fighter kind of thing. Oh
or
yeah,
Dragon Ball
Mhm.
Fighter Z with the anime graphics. That kind of art style would be great.
Yeah.
I would love that. That would be awesome. See, yeah, Pokken Wii U 2017, which is right when the Switch was coming out. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I'm kind of bummed that they kind of got rid of that from the official circuit of things, like the competitive circuit of it all.
Oh, did they?
For a while that was, there was like, for a while it was actually like a big staple. And I was like, that's just kind of such a cool like extra. Like, I mean, they have Unite now, they have Go, they have TCG, VCG. So it's like they could, like, if they kept Tech Pokken there, like that's just kind of a fun variety pick as well. I agree. So.
did you Logan? Did you ever play a lot of Unite? I can't remember if you've mentioned that before or not.
I've played a little bit here and there. Like there's months where I get really into it, and then there's months where it's like I get busy and so I can't. But I actually think it's a really fun game. Overall, like, I think there's definitely like goofy parts of it, but like I actually think like overall it's pretty fun for like what they did. I remember for a long time people were like kind of dunking on it when it first came out, like, or when it was kind of building up with it. But I think it actually surpassed most everybody's expectations of it. We actually got a neighborhood group that a bunch of guys get together every Sunday or so, and we just kind of play like every couple weeks or so, and just kind of try and win, and it's fun. So
nice. Well, instead of Unite, I think people got to bring back Pokemon Troze. Did you ever play Pokemon Troze or remember that one?
What is that?
It's like it's basically Candy Crush, but like little Pokemon sprite heads. It came out in like mid-late 2000s. It's for the Nintendo DS originally. You have to look it up and get maybe a couple minutes of gameplay on, but it's literally just I think it came out during Gen 3. It's because I remember it's the first 386 Pokemon, and it's literally just Candy Crush but with the Pokemon heads, and it's quite bombastic if you ask me. But yeah, just a kind of a little relic of its time. So anyways,
love it.
There's so much more they could do with Pokemon spin-offs. That's untapped potential.
Oh my goodness,
I know, right?
They could go as deep as they want with
they
that.
Waste
honestly.
on time on like Pokemon Snap. That's a game for toddlers or something. Why don't you make like a Pokemon, like a full-on Pokemon fighting game, or like a Pokemon Dark Souls ripoff? I don't know.
Oh man, I mean, even something like that would be incredible. Oh man.
I mean, with Power World now, right? We see the potential. Like, if Game Freak and Pokemon Company are truly, dedicated to the craft, like, they'll see the potential that Pokemon truly can have, and go into the the dark, the depths of what it could be, right?
I gotta say, I felt a little dirty, so I was getting the Power World because I wanted to try it out and everything, and here I am, not 5 minutes in, and I'm beating a Chickapek to death or a Lamwool or whatever, and I'm like, is this proper gameplay? Is this ethical? But lo and behold, that's the name of the game. And then next thing you know, a few hours later, I'm rocking an assault rifle, running around, just shooting everything. So here we are, 2024, my friends.
That's the next generation of gaming.
There you go.
Exactly. Now let's kind of start getting into kind of your content there, Jim. So kind of talk to us more about, how you got into Pokemon and kind of that journey, and then kind of what led up to you, making a YouTube channel and getting into the, the competitive OU scenes on multiple different levels.
Yeah, I started getting into competitive singles back in Gen 5, when Black and White were the current games. I played on a simulator called Pokémon Online. One of my classmates showed it to me. Like, there's this simulator you can just play with any Pokemon you want. You don't even have to train them up. That's insane. Let's go. And it's kind of funny. That guy was always way better than me at games. Like, we played StarCraft 2, League, a bunch of games that were popular back then. He was always like the best in the group. But somehow in Pokemon, I just fell in love with it and got insane at it, compared to my friend group at least. And that's where it all started.
I love it.
That's incredible.
I remember my cousin. So I have a cousin that's like, we're really close in age, and so we kind of grew up playing Pokemon together. And it was a similar thing where we kind of grew up and we were the same skill level for a while. But then like suddenly like around 12 or 13, he had found like EV training. He had found some of like the hidden strats of Pokemon, like on the actual competitive side of things. And I was still, the basic, like, a biggest attacking move you can get, click button, and like never using, any other strategies, right? And so we battle in like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and he just always beat me. And it was just like, what is happening? And then he told me, he was like, oh, did you not like realize that there's more to this game? Like there's hidden, there's like IVs, there's EVs. And it was a similar thing where it's just like, oh, now I have a rabbit hole to dive into and to understand the depth of what Pokemon truly can be. And here we are today.
It's quite captivating when you find out about all that stuff. It's like a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different game. I mean, I remember when you first got more into the competitive side of things, and you grew up playing the vanilla games, not even thinking about any of that, not knowing that hidden beneath the code is this entirely new world of things to stress over. And now that I'm in that, it's too bad. It almost ruins my vanilla playthrough of games where I'm playing through Scarlet and Violet for the first time, and I'm like, oh man, what a crummy nature. I got to go find a mint to change it. And I'm like, I can probably just beat the vanilla game without even having to worry about any of having a perfect EV spread or anything like that. But it's great. That's why we love it. So, I wanted to ask you specifically. I know you draw a lot of big roots and passion, specifically with Gen 3 OU, and that's where I came across yourself. And we've talked to some other people, like we talked to LRXC a few months ago. Big ADV guy as well, and it's a meta game that I find extremely interesting. It's been amazing to see the way that people have been engaging with it in the last year or so, even the last several months. So what draws you to that format the most, and what have been some of the more interesting things you've seen develop over the last little bit in that metagame?
Yeah, a lot of people accuse me of being like rose-tinted goggles when it comes to my appreciation for Gen 3, like because I played it as a kid or something. It's not actually true. I have the more nostalgia for Gen 1 and like Gen 4 and 5. Yeah. Gen 3, I was honestly quite frustrated with Gen 8 OU when that was current. I really didn't enjoy that generation. I thought it was like kind of a snooze, to be frank.
Yeah.
With all the boots and teleport regen spam. That's how it was at the time anyway. I know that the meta developed and some people quite like Gen 8. But I thought it was a snooze. So I was like going back into the old gens. And I always had it in my head that Gen 4 was the best competitive gen. That was the common sentiment I heard, because that's when the physical special split was introduced and so many new items. Like the framework for modern Pokemon was basically Gen 4 with Life Orb, all the new choice items and everything. But somehow I became drawn to Gen 3. I discovered BKC's channel. He had a lot of videos about like analyzing all the top tier Pokemon in Gen 3 and these long-winded 50-minute videos about like Skarmory, Gengar, all these top threats. And the more I played it, the more I just fell in love with it, to be honest. It was... What I like about it is the low power level, which naturally leads to a lot of variation in what you can use. The top tier threats are all very like reasonable, and they also all have exploitable weaknesses. I think Gen 3 strikes the balance of like a good amount of centralization where there's 4 or 5 Pokemon you see a lot, but then those Pokemon have a lot of variety in how they can be used, and also the fact that they have exploitable weaknesses creates more niche roles for like random Pokemon to exploit. So I think a problem in many competitive Pokemon metagames is that if something is too powerful, it actually restricts variety, because random niche stuff doesn't have any breathing room. In Gen 3, I think it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, no, that's really, really, yeah. I think like that's a really good way to phrase it. Is that it, like, because I mean, right now, like popular metagame stuff. I mean, at least on the VGC side, I'm sure in a lot of like ways, right? Like I mean, like from what I've seen is like Urshifu and Ogerpon are staples, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Or like Fluttermane was really popular on the VGC side right now too. But it's like that power structure. Like once things start getting so high in the power levels of things like that, like you said, it really does limit the variety that can really kind of appear. And I mean, it has to kind of make it for a grind for some of those weaker mons, or some of those mons that don't see as much use because they have to compete with such high power level. And so I think that's such a good point. And like as we've been, as I've been kind of getting back into ADV and stuff like that from our interviews and learning more about it, it's really interesting to see like how specific mons have like such niche and special roles like Quillfish and things like that, being able to kind of fill specific spots in a team to be able to and being able to really see the first kind of play in years, before compared to now, right?
I think the metagame also just naturally evolves and goes in cycles, and new things are being discovered constantly. Like I recently found out that Licky Tongue has a niche because there's Knock, Wish, Protect, and like a lot of random utility nothing else has. It's not great, but like
it has something.
You have like 1 or 2 unique things to you. You can build around that and do something, which is what I like. But I think that's not the case in many other generations. Like there are a lot of Pokemon that are unique, but they kind of just get shoved down by stuff like Stealth Rock and the higher power level moves over the years, Draco Meteor, Close Combat, then buffed Knockoff. Z moves and jets, all these new mechanics just get more powerful.
Yeah.
So you're telling me Beedrill isn't one of those Pokemon that has that special niche that can be used in any generation?
I did make a dedicated video about how Beedrill sucks, and then like
I know
the next time I used Beedrill, I just kept winning. I've won like the last 3 or so games with Beedrill. That's a kind of a classic competitive Pokemon thing. Whenever you trash a Pokemon, the next time you use it, you just win with it. BKC did that to me. He keeps talking about how Snorlax sucks, and then in our set, he brings Snorlax,
and
he
wins.
destroyed me.
Yeah. I was going to say that BKC video where you guys fought through the first 5 generations was an absolute treat, because it was really fun to see just a rapid fire of the 5 matches in the 5 generations back to back to back, and to see the contrast. But yeah, there were some interactions like that made me laugh, where I'm like, what was that? What just happened? And of course, you beat him in his home field, his home turf generation, which was insane.
At all.
Yeah. I was trying to spoil it and scroll ahead or scrub ahead or anything, and then that happened, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is we're in for a good one today." So that was fun.
I'm kind of on the same ADV thread. I'm curious, like, what do you have any favorite team strategies specifically, or like any like individual Pokemon strategies that are kind of like your favorites and staples that you kind of maybe drift back to or love just in general from Gen 3 OU or in the ADV?
I really like the more offensive-leaning Spikes teams. I think a lot of offense teams in Gen 3 can end up being a little inconsistent in their matchups, but you can't go too wrong with Spikes usually. But what I like about the more offensive-leaning Spikes teams is you sacrifice like that defensive backbone of maybe a Blissey or a I don't know, a Flygon or something really bulky that can stick around for a long time. You say screw that, and you go like really aggressive. You run something like Aerodactyl or Jolteon, and those Pokemon really reward you for making like aggressive double switches and playing with momentum and keeping pressure up, which is just a playstyle I really enjoy. Pokemon like Smeargle as well. Yeah, Smeargle's really good when you can double switch in on something and that's slower, get the Spore, get the Spikes, paralyze something, explode, and then just carry that momentum to the end.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And kind of like the niche uses for them too is kind of fun to be able to see kind of like the alternate gameplay that can be done like from other offensive based teams, which is fun. That's cool.
I wanted to ask as well. I know this is a metagame where there are good checks and balances. Where even though there are these kind of central powers like your your Tyrannitars, or I mean Tyranitar is always going to be a staple, but things like that. But is there anything that you see on the ladder where it pops up on an enemy team and you kind of roll your eyes because you're going to have to kind of do some guesswork as to what it's running, or it's going to be a chore to kind of get off the battlefield and play around? Or I mean, obviously that's going to depend a lot on what you bring to the table, but is there anything specific that kind of tends to throw a wrench in your plans whenever it pops up?
There are a few Pokemon that can have multiple different sets, and there's a bit of scouting you have to do to figure that out. And sometimes when you make the wrong call, it can be game losing. Celebi and Jirachi are two of those. They're insanely diverse and can fit on like Jirachi can be a wish support, completely bulky defensive Pokemon, or all out aggressive, full speed. And it can run various coverage. It has like every coverage option. So
it's got punch
sometimes
moves and
Jirachi can be annoying where answering it is flimsy sometimes, where Blissey can sometimes lose to it because it's sand immune. It can sub and live a seismic toss, so it can actually 1v1 Blissey sometimes.
It's crazy.
With the psychic drops and the subs. And sometimes it can beat like Tyranitar because they run HP fighting mixed Jirachi. Sometimes Tyranitar is usually quite solid against it. And sometimes also what's annoying about Jirachi is Serene Grace because Fire Punch and Ice Punch have 20% burn and freeze chance. The 20% Ice Punch freeze chance in particular is quite annoying. Sometimes you switch in a Swampert on a Jirachi Ice Punch, which is a good move, and it just gets froze.
And you're frozen.
And you just...
It's
That's
devastating.
why freeze clauses in Gen 3, because of Jirachi Ice Punch, which is a great new... That was a pretty recent development. It means you can't get frozen on more than one Pokemon at a time, so at least there's that. Like, sometimes Jirachi could just freeze like 4 Pokemon. It was kind of stupid.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was literally going to mention that when was it? It was relatively recently, maybe a couple months ago, but I was playing against someone and he was just spamming Ice Punch, and I was like, what's the strategy here? And then all of a sudden, after a couple turns, the first freeze procced, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going.
That's a valid strategy sometimes. You could just sit there fishing for it. And
then I realized I watch it back and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think he had any other answers here. And then sure enough, the first freeze procs and then the second one procs, and I'm like, okay, well, not much I can do here. So thank goodness for that freeze clause.
Yeah.
So, and kind of along these lines as well, these live streams you've been doing recently using these miscellaneous Pokemon, they've been incredible. From these Tropius Piloswine cores to our beloved Murkrow to Ledian and so on and so forth. Trying to make a little bit of everything work, and it's great because sometimes you pull it off with great aplomb, and other times it seems like people are trying to sabotage your ladder position with these suggestions. But what's cool is that even though it's funny to see these Pokemon being used, I still learn a lot because you're trying to make these cohesive strategies and teams around them, and to a certain degree you make a lot of them work, like the Beedrill lately that's been winning some matches for you. What have you liked about doing these streams? Obviously you're interacting a lot with with your viewers and people in the chat and everything like that, so tell us more about those.
I think it's just really fun content no matter what. Even if I lose, I can make it funny and it helps you think outside the box a bit with team building when you're running garbage. Like when I'm forced to build around, what was I using recently? Like there was Murkrow, it was
Murkrow. I see
that guy's got insomnia. I never knew that. That's real. That's an actual advantage. Can't hit very hard. That's like 80 attack, but
I think Wigglytuff too. I think I was seeing as well. They've been
Wigglytuff is garbage. I hope no one requests 71. I've not won a single battle with that guy.
Oh man.
No, but some impressed me, like Walrein. I feel like you could actually build a real team with Walrein. Like it's all right. And same with Licky Tongue. Like to be honest, Licky Tongue is a hero. Macago, to be absolutely honest, it's sand immune, it's burn immune, it's got flame body, and it resists normal, and it can punish Aerodactyl Choice Lock. What's funny about Gen 3 is that Ice Punch and Fire Punch make physical contact, even though they're special attacks. So you can come in and like Gengar Ice Punch or Fire Punch and burn them. You burn a Gengar, that's enormous.
Yeah. Well, and then also, I mean, on the side, does it still get Magma Armor in Gen 3? I can't remember. No, there's only. Is there 2 abilities? No, there's only 1 ability, huh? In Gen 3, huh?
Can we check for Macargo?
I always get mixed up between like Camerupt, Macargo, and Torkoal. I think Macargo definitely gets Flame Body, but it might also get it also gets Magma Armor.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I mean, for the freeze issue we talked about earlier, I don't know. I mean, it's not as common, but it's still there, right?
There you go. That's your Jirachi answer. Right? That's your Ice Punch, Serene Grace Jirachi answer is Macargo Magma Armor.
There you go. Exactly.
I love it. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Wigglytuff because I was like, I don't know how you make that thing work. They're like, let's give a Pokemon with abysmal defense stats a fantastic HP stat, and that's somehow going to make sense because, I don't know, Wish, Protect, Toxic, something. I don't know, you can Seismic Toss or, I
probably
don't even
pretty
know.
good in the lower tiers. It's got good utility, but,
definitely,
Blissey, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was just a funny one that you were trying to make work, and I'm like, I don't know if I see it with old Wigglytuff, unfortunately.
It's sometimes stuff even worse than that works. Like against all odds, so you never know.
I love it.
I mean, I'm seeing on here. I mean, like Castform and Butterfree as well being you're saying they're top tier, or at least Castform's top tier on your video and stuff like that. And so it's kind of funny to where like comparatively, like at a first glance, I would say Wigglytuff should, like, in my mind, would be a better option than Butterfree. But it's like Butterfree actually, can
better.
Cause some
Butterfree's
it can cause some havoc, and like I kind of love that too, because it's like, it's always like it was like always the first dog Pokemon I caught as a kid, and so just kind of seeing that, it's like, yes, go Butterfree, go.
Yeah, I love it.
I had a question for you too, kind of along these lines of, so kind of in the more of the content creation kind of side of things, you're, coming up with a bunch of fun ideas for videos and things. And you've been doing kind of this series recently where, we've been talking about where the chat chooses your team. Kind of how has that been, kind of being able to kind of have that collaboration almost with your chat to be able to kind of have them, kind of, change the sway, we can say, on what you're going to be doing that day, because you kind of step in and you're like, I'm not sure what's going to happen today, but let's see how we can make it work. How's that kind of that conversation and that been going for you? Like, how's and kind of building a community that way?
I feel like it's perfect stream content because you can just watch casually and some funny stuff will happen, but you can engage with me if you want. You can make me use whatever you want and I'll try. So I think it's great. I think it's great stream content.
Yeah,
it's really fun for everyone. I feel like
it's awesome. I think the thing with competitive Pokemon in this specific regard is that the RNG is almost just as much a content creator as you are, because something dastardly can happen, and there you have it. There's the marquee or signature moment of the video or the stream. We were it's always a treat to talk about these kinds of things. I think, even though we talk to a lot of people from different niches of the Pokemon community, from like the TCG to, people doing art or whatever, but I think what Logan and I have a soft spot for is definitely, competitive singles. And we also do some like Nuzlocks off to the side as well. So anytime we get to talk about this kind of thing, it's always a special treat. And, recently last year we wrapped up a dual Nuzlocke together where we played through Renegade Platinum. And just whenever there was a stream and we were just doing it for fun and some RNG popped up or whatever, it just makes for that signature moment. And we're like, thank you, RNG coding gods, for giving us some fun content for today. But you ruined our run, so I hate you. So it makes for a good time.
Yeah. Recently, I've been using Heracross quite a bit, and for some reason I just keep missing Megahorn.
Oh my god.
It's becoming like a whole thing. Like people I don't think Megahorn's hit a single time in the past 4 videos someone commented recently. I was like,
dastardly.
It's always fun to see, because obviously, when you have multiple streams or multiple moments where that's happened and the community's noticing that, it's like, what are the chances, are truthfully, how, to never hit a Megahorn?
Some joke starts about
that.
How Heracross is blind or something.
It's got to be
the whole thing. I made a video about how good Blaziken is, and then every time I use Blaziken, it does nothing and just dies.
Oh yeah, that was another one.
Because Blaziken's actually good. I'm not even kidding. But somehow it just keeps failing.
I can't remember which one it was. It was sometime in the last couple weeks, but you were using it, and you literally said Blaziken's like a trash Pokemon. Like I think it was just a culmination of frustration from something not working out. You're like,
he's letting me down repeatedly. But it's
like Blaziken's a bad Pokemon, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's just he misses Sky Uppercut in the moment he needs it to hit it the most, and then
tragic.
Those crucial
honestly.
moments.
It's so funny.
It's like I've always found like Stone Edge to be the bane of my existence. Terrakion and Stone Edge for some reason, just like our draft league, I've drafted Terrakion before, and I've wanted so bad for it to be good, and I just can never get the Stone Edge to hit right, or it's just one of those moments where it's like, oh, I know you're generally consensusly good, but for some reason you just hate me.
There's a player called ABR who's one of the best Gen 3 players, and he famously hates inaccurate moves, and he like never uses them whenever he can avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the standard Charizard set is, timid Fire Blast, but he goes modest with Flamethrower and Overheat.
Yeah.
Or like he never runs Hydro Pump. He never runs he tries to avoid running Will-O-Wisp, but you kind of have to run Will-O-Wisp because it's so good. Yeah, there's definitely players who think that inaccurate moves are genuinely bad and you shouldn't use them because they could just lose you the battle. I think he hates Heracross for that reason too, because it hinges on hitting Mega Horn.
Yeah. And that's the only option it gets for a good bug move too. Like you have to do Mega Horn for Heracross, and that's what's so funny about it.
You need to, yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks when you have no other option. That's why I hate Focus Blast. It's one of my least favorite moves.
Focus Blast
is necessary coverage on so many Pokemon, but then it Gen 5 OU, Alakazam hitting Focus Blast on the Tyranitar is so important. But it misses so often. It's 30% miss.
It's crazy. And it's such an interesting dynamic, kind of like the two different types of players, right? Because there's those players who I feel like they see the risk and the benefit involved with those inaccurate moves and what that Pokemon can bring to the table if it can hit those things. But then it's always like you said that your friend he will not play those moves because it's he sees that they are not worth the risk. But it's when you hit them, it feels amazing when that crucial moment when you land.
There's always risk reward assessment with that.
Mm-hmm.
Some Pokemon can afford to miss more, like Swampert Hydro Pump. If it doesn't hit the Skarmory coming in or something, you're not going to lose the battle off that. But the extra damage is also worth it for certain interactions. Like you can KO them on bulky Tyranitar variants, and if you miss one, you can hit a second one. There's risk reward, but something like Heracross, if it misses Mega Horn, it loses the battle on the spot.
Right.
But there's different levels of how important that accuracy is. Even the whole sleep debate right now, Hypnosis, that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic to kind of look into and really analyze. I love that part of the game too, because you also have to kind of just figure out where you stand in it, and it's fun. That's awesome. Kind of context switching just a little bit. In a recent stream, you talked about how gouging fire is a great example of being a great design of a Pokemon, both competitively and kind of in general. We're kind of curious, what other Pokemon do you think are good designs? What are something that you look for? Is it the stat spread, move access, abilities, typing, anything like that you think makes a good design for Pokemon?
What I will say about gouging fire is I definitely think the name is very silly and it's just Entei with a hat. But I like its Dragon Fire typing.
Yeah.
And which is a good type combo, and it has a pretty modest attack stat by Gen 9 standards and stuff like that. That's what I like about it mostly. As far as what a good Pokemon design is, I think it's a combination of flavor, how well do they fit and function, and do they function because they're brute forced into power by having something like Chien Pao, where it's just give it everything, give it every move, give it every advantage, it's got the best stab combo ever? Or is it something I think a great example of all design Pokemon is Mamoswine. I made a whole video about this, but Mamoswine not only visually and flavor wise is great, but the typing Ice Ground is perfect stab coverage, but at the same time it's not so fast where it's going to overwhelm everything in the world. And generally, to get value out of Mamoswine in Gen 5 OU, which is the metagame I talked about it in, you have to maneuver it in intelligently. And it's one of the few ice types that can function defensively, which is rare. Most ice types are like glass cannons, Weavile, where they're really great offensively, but they'll die to a slight breeze. But Mamoswine actually has some defensive backbone to it because it's got the ground electric immunity. It's immune to sand and hail, which are two relevant weather effects in Gen 5. And it has thick fat, which neutralizes its weakness to fire, which is really important. So you can actually switch Mamoswine into stuff. And I like that because having the ability to switch into stuff is what gives you offensive momentum with Mamoswine. It's not like you have to pivot it in or use it in the lead slot or like there's if a Pokemon is more frail and they die easier, it's harder to like the situations where you can maneuver them in and get value out of them are more limited, and therefore like the interactions that evolve from that Pokemon are not as interesting. But Mamoswine, the way you can use it, because of how it's designed, is it basically if Mamoswine is in a Gen 5 OU game, it's going to make that game like exciting and interesting, and not in a way that feels annoying or like Mamoswine is this really annoying presence that's that's what I think.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think that's great. My first, I agree with you on the first note with Gouging Fire 2 being, it's kind of I one of the things that my biggest issue with both the Raging Bolt and Gouging Fire is that I kind of feel like they took more time with Walking Wake, and like they actually made Walking Wake's face like more like a raptor, whereas I felt like with Gouging Fire and Raging Bolt,
they do
literally
just look like Entei and Raikou, but like slightly edited for sure.
Yeah,
but then gameplay wise, I feel like they are way more interesting than Walking Wake is.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Thunderclap is like a new mechanic. That's cool. And then I like Gouging Fire's fire protect thing. And all his options.
It automatically burns, right? It's kind of like Baneful Bunker, but with fire, with burn.
Yeah, burns on contact.
Mm.
It's pretty cool.
That's crazy. That's good.
I gotta say, when the DLC first dropped and before we got the sprites in Showdown, I loved the edited in sprites on your part, like slapping a Raikou head on a giraffe rig or something like that. I went
crazy with that one. The great neck.
I was like, I'm like a man of many talents. I had no idea our Jim was so talented with Photoshop. It's incredible. I agree with that. And before I was going to ask more about Gen 9 as well, but this kind of came up and I was curious. I know you said that you were originally really into Gen 4 and 5 as well, and I feel like those are two really really unique metagames where if you go and play them, they feel drastically different from any of the others. I mean, each generation is going to have its own flavor and its own dynamics, especially the recent ones where they come out with new mechanics and it just gets crazier and crazier. But I feel like those two, Gen 4 brings in the physical special split. Gen 5 has perma-weather. It has the whole sleep is its own thing entirely in that generation with it resetting every time you switch in and out. What do you like specifically about those two generations? Whether it's Pokemon that are viable or just overall like things like that, mechanics that make the overall, I guess, what you click different from any other.
Gen 4 feels very unique because it has all the modern mechanics like physical special, item variety, stealth rock, all this stuff, but there's also no team preview. So it's like the only generation where that's the case, where there's no team preview and you have like a pretty wide array of modern mechanics.
Yeah.
So that creates this, and the power of Stealth Rock as well creates a very aggressive feeling metagame where often some of the most successful structures just try to make rocks as soon as possible and go in with threats. And the way that the metagame adapts around that is quite interesting too. There's like Clefable rose significantly over the years. It used to be a UU ranked Pokemon, now it's like A+, probably a top 4 Pokemon in the meta.
Yeah.
Because of Magic Guard, which grants, immunity to hazards, Sandstorm Chip, Toxic, everything, which is an amazing ability. So good that even Clefable with its average stats and normal typing is like top tier.
Yeah,
those are fun. And kind of along this, I was going to ask, so how things have changed over the last several generations. You also covering some stuff on the current metagame as well. And, we just were talking about some of the Pokemon that have cropped up from the last few DLCs, Pokemon that have been reintroduced with these new DLCs. One's getting banned, some getting suspect listed. Obviously, sleep getting banned is a huge topic right now. It's been a pretty wild last, I'd say, 6 months or so for Gen 9 OU. What do you like and dislike about the current metagame?
I think the new collection of DLC Pokemon and DLC 2 were probably like the best batch of new Pokemon we got so far. Like all the others, all the other content drops have shaken things up in a bad way. I feel like this one's been the best in terms of new Pokemon. But the metagame just still has its fundamental issues that, you know, turn me away from it personally. Just the power of Terra and the insane offensive tools and King Gambit. I hate King Gambit. I really think it should have been banned back when they suspected it, but I don't know. People disagree. They think it's like a glue that holds the tier together. But now we're in broken checks, broken territory where we need King Gambit to handle all the ridiculous stuff. I don't know if that's a good sign, but then it is true. If you ban King Gambit, a lot of bans would follow because King Gambit is holding things together. So that might even be more chaotic in its own weird way. So I can't
even imagine what would happen.
Same with Goldengo. If you ban Goldengo, suddenly a bunch of new stuff becomes hugely problematic. Probably Iron Valiant has to get banned, I think, after that.
Right. That's largely checked by. Oh, man, it really is weird because I feel like if you do anything with that, it does feel like who were we talking with before? We were talking with Pink Across about this a little bit, and he's like just the amount of tools that people have access to. Especially with terrestrialization, that you can't even make a team that is going to have answers to everything out there. There's likely going to be some variant of Roaring Moon or some variant of something out there, you know, whether it's Goldengo or King Gambit or something that you're just simply not going to have an answer for. And that's what it's going to come down to a lot of the time. And it's so hyper offense focused, and especially with the terrestrialization, which I think in some cases can be a really fun mechanic. And I can see how in others people are pretty mixed on it. It's made for a really interesting little bit. I think the last DLC especially has made things a lot more palatable with some of these new Pokemon that have been brought back or that are new. And I mean now finally it's going to stabilize. As far as I'm aware, we don't have any DLC coming out between now and the next game. I'm sure we're going to get some announcement on remakes probably this year, and maybe some other games. But as far as Scarlet and Violet goes, I'm assuming we're going to stabilize for the next little while until the next game comes out. So hopefully we'll have a healthier metagame maybe in 6 months' time. But you know, that remains to be seen. So I was curious on that.
Very nice. Well, you know, we've kind of talked about your content for a little bit. We're actually going to kind of get into the rapid fire round for our interview today. So these are just going to be kind of, you know, off of the hip answers. You know, we'll ask you something that you might like, and then or you know, your preference, and then you just kind of let us know what you think. Just want to make sure you just want to make sure everything's okay over
right now. Can you hear that?
Oh no,
you're good. You're good
at all.
You can't hear it? Okay, perfect. I was worried.
Just want to make sure that you didn't need to pause for a second. All good.
Rapid fire round? Let's go for it.
Yep, rapid fire round. Let's do it. So, your preference: a good rain team or a good sun team?
Rain team, for sure.
Nice. Are you a Pelipper or like if you were to choose like a Drizzle, Pelipper or Politoed or Kyogre? I mean, Kyogre is a great option.
I think a Politoed because I like Jet 5OU, and I like rain teams there. They're more fun.
Yeah. Oh, for
sure. Yeah. I like it.
Harder bug type to use in terms of Gen 3 OU, Beedrill or Ariados?
Beedrill. Ariados has Insomnia, Agile Pass, which is like good enough to build a team around, I reckon. But Beedrill is just garbage.
It was funny because in your Beedrill video, you were like, it got to the point where it's like, yeah, even Ariados has a little bit of utility with Insomnia and whatever
switch
else.
It to stuff. What can Beedrill switch in on? Literally nothing.
I mean, the Beedrill it had me running calcs. I'm like, at what point, like with Choice Band, Brick Break, or something like that, can I actually OHKO a Tyranitar? And that was like, there's like, I mean, I don't think I was even able to squeeze out an OHKO with or a reliable OHKO on Tyranitar with.
It's just a tragedy. But I hope they're just not bulk invested.
And if not, then somehow, you know, then you're gonna get smacked right back. So it's funny.
Other than leftovers, what is the best hold item
in Gen 3?
Yeah, or I mean, you can do multiple generations if you want. Either way,
in modern gens, it's definitely boots, but in Gen 3, probably like Lumberry.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, Lumber is a good option. I've been we do Soul Links on the side for fun, and I've been thinking we need to use Lumbears a lot more because I always forget about it. Like it's just like something I just never used, and it's just like I got to use it more because it's a powerful item.
Yeah.
And then first thing that comes to your head for building a team, like if you're gonna this will be Gen 3 and Gen 9, like so like if you're gonna build a team, like what's the first mon that comes to your head that you're like, okay, let's start here.
I guess you got to figure out the game plan first in Gen 3. Like, how do you actually break through the common top mons? So, if it's like Spikes, Chuck, Skarmory, or like Mag or Doug, those are usually the three engine Pokemon that you form your whole game plan around, like Scar, Mag, and Doug. There's others, like you can build Spikeless offense or Stolier teams without them, but generally speaking, like those are the three mons I tend to start with.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love it.
Other Spikers, obviously, like Smeagol and stuff.
And then our last rapid fire one for you. Which champion from the vanilla games do you think would have the best competitive base for a team, Blue or Cynthia?
I'll be honest, I'm not. I can't recall like what those guys used.
Here,
I know Cynthia's used the Garchomp, right? Isn't Garchomp?
Yeah, here.
Cynthia's got a Garchomp base. Yep.
I'll list off the teams for you. So Blue's OG team, he has so it's going to be one of the three starters. So I'll just give you the Charizard team. That's the first one that popped up. So he's got Pidgeot, Alakazam, Rhydon, Executor, Gyarados, and Charizard, and then Cynthia. Let's see, what is she rocking?
She's got Spiritomb, Togekiss.
Yeah,
Garchomp, Milotic generally too.
Yeah, Milotic, Lucario, and Gastrodon.
If we're talking Gen 1 OU, the blue team sounds alright. You've got Executor Zam in there. But probably Cynthia. Like, Garchomp's really good. Milo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
I love it.
Now we're going to move into our shower thoughts round. So this is kind of like our deeper thoughts of the Pokemon universe. You know, like as we're going out the day, like what's this, what's that, how would this work in that world? Our first question for you: you get to attend a TED Talk from one of the Pokemon professors about their research. Which do you choose? And I can tell you right here, it's so Professor Oak is Pokemon and human relationships. Professor Elm is Pokemon breeding. Birch is Pokemon habitats. Rowan is evolution and form changes. Juniper is origins. Sycamore is mega evolution. Kukui is Pokemon moves. Magnolia is Dynamax. Sonia is the history of Galar. Sada is the paradox phenomenon of the ancient variety. And then Turo is the paradox Pokemon of the future variety.
This is like I live in the Pokemon universe or something.
Yeah.
I'm going
you
to
get
school.
to attend a little TED Talk with them, or you get to stroll through the park with them and pick their brain.
Chat about Pokemon moves, so I can learn about moves. I don't know.
Okay,
Professor Kukui,
cool.
man.
I think like moves are such an interesting aspect of the game of the world in general. Because like I was watching the anime, it's like right before this, like the most recent finale with Ash, right? And his Gengar was working with his Infernape to learn how to learn like Will-O-Wisp. I thought that was just like an incredibly like interesting aspect of the world building. And so it's like I'm like, how do like specific Pokemon learn like different moves like this? Like for example, like Ice Beam for a water type, or even like I know like Clefable can learn Ice Beam and things like that, right? Like so it's just like I think the move is an excellent choice because that's always been something that I've been curious about too.
I just want to know what happens in the anime where apparently type matchups are completely ignored, where you see electric types being used against ground types, and it clearly doesn't even appear to phase some Pokemon.
Honestly, I can't.
Or I don't know, just seeing Ash tank an overheat or a fire blast and live to tell the tale. I don't know. Maybe I'm not watching it with the right eye, but that doesn't seem to sit well with me. So, nice.
I always love the power scaling of Ash, just because like there've been like memes I've seen where he's like carrying a Larvitar and Larvitar's like extremely heavy, and then he's also carrying like what's the second form of Lunala, like the form right before Lunala. What is that?
It's like
The
Cosmoem
evolution.
or someone.
Yeah, Cosmoem and Cosmoem.
Yeah, like Cosmoem. Like he's carrying one of those, like it's nothing, and like the weight
So
of those
funny.
things is like 300 something pounds.
Yeah, they're like basically like a little singularity kind of Pokemon where it's just
Doesn't care about consistency at all.
nope, just zero regard
How
for the
could they?
canon apparently. So yeah, it's not good. All right, I got a more sound shower thought for you. If you could improve one Pokemon by giving them an ability or modifying an ability, which would it be? I know, for example, a big one, and this could be in any generation context, whether it's Gen 3 or the current one. I know a big one was Shiftry got some additional usability by getting Wind Rider. So coming in, popping a Tailwind, and next thing you know, you essentially just have a Shiftry who use Dragon Dance. Is there any Pokemon that you'd love to see get an ability that would make them a little more viable? That would make sense for them.
That's a good one. My favorite Pokemon is Dodrio. I feel like it'd be cool if he got an ability that, like, when you switch him in, he makes Tailwind on the field or something.
I love it. That would be
like
insane.
Some broken ability.
I love that. That's so cool. Well, because Tailwind is like, it's such an interesting little aspect of the game, like where, because it's not weather technically. Like I don't think anyway.
Yeah, it's like
in
a field condition.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I think that'd be really cool because then it could be like almost like alter it to be a weather and then have it be kind of like the Drizzle, like the flying version of Drizzle, just make Tailwind go. That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, Tailwind's really common in doubles because it boosts your ally. But
right.
I think a Tailwind setting ability could be broken in doubles, but Dodrio kind of sucks, so that would balance it, maybe.
Yeah, give it to Dodrio. I mean, it's already got...
At the same time, people were using Murkrow for pranks to Tailwind, so that's the power of Tailwind, is that Murkrow was good enough to use just for that.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know, it'd be cool to see Dodrio with that, because it's already got like a 110 attack and 110 speed, but everything else is pretty garbage, so if it outspeeds everything else and hits modestly hard, then, I don't know, it can come in and maybe break some walls. Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. I love that. If you could design the regional variant starter, so like in Legends Arceus, we had the Cyndaquil, Rowlet, and the Popplio. Or Oshawott, that's what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm.
But so we had the variant evolutions, on their final forms. Which ones would you choose for the next Legends game?
Oh yeah. I reckon a Chikorita. That's an underappreciated fellow. They don't give that guy.
Like that.
You can make him a fire type or something.
I love it.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be super cool. Make it like a sunflower almost. Like that'd be awesome. Like for Meganium.
That's just a random idea. I don't know.
Give us the grass fire Pokemon we deserve, because we got Scoville, and that's not exactly itching my fire grass.
True, grass fire would be epic for a Hisuian Chikorita.
Something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I love
Who else is cool? I like maybe Turtwig. Well, that's another grass guy.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just make him water type or something? So we can go in there. And then
that would basically be like a quadrupedal Blastoise is what Turtwig would be if it was water type.
That's amazing.
I guess Blastoise already exists. That's not very creative by Jim. Right? We already got a water turtle. Nice one, Jim.
Of another. We got a grass turtle. We made him water. So
Genius.
Way to go! Very nicely done. I'm trying to think of another one that hasn't really been. I was going to say Litten, but I think we've seen enough of Incineroar to never hear from it ever again, if you ask me.
What if you have like a Torchic, but he's fire psychic, and he's like meditating Blaziken when he evolves out of.
Okay, no, I think
that's epic. There you go.
I think I actually saw like a fan, like on my Instagram, like some fan art of a fire psychic Infernape, but where's that same kind of thing where it was like a monk.
Works better for that.
It's like a monk meditative. It was like it's sitting, crisscross and floating in the air, and its fire flame hair is up in the. It's actually a pretty cool one, and I was like, that's a fire psychic one I can get behind as well.
That's really cool. I like that.
Good choice.
Well, there you go. We've got the perfect trio.
It's amazing.
The water turtle. That'd be the best thing is if they actually do that, and then Turtwig just ends up evolving into a Blastoise that's actually just on all fours. we've been had.
And he's just mono water. He's not that interesting.
Yeah. Like the least interesting thing they could possibly think of. That'd be great. Okay, last one we got for you before we kind of wrap up our chat here. What is your favorite myth, legend, playground rumor from the Pokemon community? Like, for example, we had the Mew under the truck that ran rampant through my friend group when I was younger. The conspiracy that Gengar is just a Clefable shadow, that the legendary beasts from Johto were once evolutions, so on and so forth. Is there one that you have off the top of your head that's your favorite, or that you believe, put on the tinfoil hat and back with 100% valiance?
The Gengar Clefable one's pretty cool, and there's something to that.
Yeah.
The silhouettes line up. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was one that we talked about a couple weeks ago with someone else. It was that Ditto is a failed Mew clone, right?
Mew
Logan, what was it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the stat spread is the same. Where it isn't. What's Ditto? Base 50 all
Base
around
70,
or something like that.
Base 70, although
or it's like
maybe it's base 50.
Something like that. But it's like a fraction version of what Mew is, and then same coloring, same shiny.
Yep.
Obviously Mew can learn all the TMs, and then Ditto can just transform anything.
You find Mew in the same locate, or not Mew, Ditto, like in the red and blue games, you can find it, or maybe Fire Red and Leaf Green, I can't remember, but you find it in the mansion where supposedly Mew was cloned, on Cinnabar Island. So there's definitely, I feel like a root for that one too.
That's a good one.
That's a great one. That adds up. I'm sold.
And now I have my dogs crashing in. They're my little lily pup herd ears over here. So
are you hounding?
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. We really appreciate it. You stopping by and chatting with us. Like I said, we this is a big treat for us. Just chatting Pokemon with you, kind of digging in more into the current meta, what you've been putting out. Like I said, I've really been enjoying it. I've learned a lot. I feel like a better player, a better team builder, but at the same time, I'm vastly entertained, and that's like I said, that's what you can ask for as a content creator. So before we wrap up, go ahead and plug anything that you might have coming up here soon that you're kind of working on or looking forward to, and then leave the people with some nuggets of wisdom, whether that's about life or whether about Pokemon in general. Give us a couple nuggets of wisdom to leave the people with.
All right. Well, I'm Jimothy Cool on everything. YouTube, Twitter, etc. Check out Revival Tournaments, a new channel where me and various others are commentating Gen 3OU tournament games. Currently covering SPL. That's good content, folks.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful.
As for some wisdom, I don't know. Use good Pokemon. Let me tell you, folks, if you're playing Gen 3OU, I recommend that you use Tyranitar and Blissey. People go too crazy. They jump into the deep end. I see people on the ladder, they run like all 6 of the niche funny Pokemon that I've made recently. It's like Dusclops, Blaziken, Regice, and they don't work together at all. You can't just run 6 funny fellows. You got to run a backbone and then like 1 or 2 funny guys. So use like solid Pokemon. You're gonna regret it if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get defeated by a simple Zapdos or something switching in, and it's not going to be fun. Sometimes you got to run the meta Pokemon.
Right.
There you go.
I love it.
I love it.
No, it's great advice. We'll go ahead and we'll plug, of course, everything down in our description, YouTube, everything, so you guys can go ahead and subscribe and follow along with Jim. Again, we appreciate it. We'll be streaming as well, pumping out more interviews and get some more content for you lovely folks out there. But it's been an absolute treat. And this is Skill Link signing off over here with Josh, Logan, and Jim.
See you guys.
See you, gamers.